All right, guys, we got an interesting one for you guys today. So let's just dive into it. Today, we're going to be working on a 1988 Firebird V6 2.8 liter with 230,000 miles that has not been on the road in about 15 years and has not been started in about 13 years. So why in the heck would we do this? Well, it was my mother's car, and she bought it new not too long around the time of the divorce with my father. She worked really hard. She always had a thing for sports cars, and it's all she could afford, especially being a single mom with a 3-year-old. When we went to the dealership, she took me with her, and we had looked at a 2.3 Mustang at the Ford dealership, and we went over to the Pontiac dealership because she did not like Camaros, and we looked at a 2.8 black Firebird. Being the informed 3-year-old I was, I told her that I liked the Firebird, and that's what we left with. So, I was too young to remember a lot of this, of course, but I've always had a deep connection with the car. She drove that car as her daily driver for almost 14 years until I turned 16. At that point in time, I started driving it. And the family, it has probably taught a half a dozen teenagers how to drive. I'm talking summer, mountains, rain, snow. I mean, we lived on a mountain, so, and it was our primary driver. I mean, it has been a phenomenal machine. The problem was that when I was about 18, the transmission went out. Being a young 18-year-old, I did not have a lot of money. So, of course, my mom was still up on the mountain, and it went back to her house. Mainly because I was getting ready to join the Army, and I did go in the Army, of course. And over that time, that the car sat, and being that I was back and forth between deployments, different duty stations, stationed outside the state, it just kind of got away from us, and it's just sat and sat and sat and sat. Well, ever since my daughter, who's now 10, was about 3 years old, she has said that she wanted that car. Guys, it is probably beyond help. I highly suspect that the motor is frozen. I'm sure it's full of rats. It's not looking good for the home team. Let's just put it like that. I have no idea what we're walking into. I'm working today, so we only have a very short period of time to actually stop by and take a look at the car. I'm not investing any money into it. I'm taking my heavy-duty jumper cables. We're going to hook up to the 15-year-old plus battery that's in it. We're going to take a can of starting fluid, and that's pretty much it. I'm very skeptical. I've got a breaker bar, so if the engine is seized, we might try to turn it over by hand. But the reason the car was parked was because, once again, the transmission was going out on it. And it was kind of move a little bit, but if you try to put any sort of load on it, the transmission would just start slipping. And it's a 4-speed automatic. I believe it's either a 700 R4 or a 4L60. I'm not sure where that transition happened between the 700 R4 and the 4L60. I think it's a 700, but I could be mistaken. If I am, please leave it in the comments. Please educate me. Well, guys, keep your fingers crossed. This is going to be interesting one way or another. So let's dive into it. Alright guys, so we've got a Firebird that hasn't been started in like 10 years. Well, we got the door open, and that's a giant snake skin. Made down. I'm glad it's 32 degrees out here. And that's 4 snake skins. So I'm not too sure about this one. Alright, we're going to give it a shot. You ready for this? It's in for well over 10 years. It's been probably 13 to 14 years since we started. So, really give it a shot. One more time. All right, guys. Well, I'm really impressed. You know, I really wasn't expecting much. I thought I was going to have to put a breaker bar on the crank, and that probably wouldn't even work. I didn't expect to be able to turn the engine over. The first time we struck that jumper wire to the battery, it just went click, 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 click. I was like, it's frozen. The second time we hit it, it went Third time we hit it, it started turning. So it definitely was a little bit of resistance there, but it was enough for the starter to overcome it, and I was really impressed. So the next step is going to be to drain all that nasty fuel out of the tank. We'll probably have to use a vampire pump for that, and then probably put 5 gallons of fresh fuel and some seafoam in it, see if we can get it through the system. I know a lot of you guys would really like to see me completely take that tank out, dump it, change the fuel filter, send the injectors off to be ultrasounded, and yeah, we're not doing all that. So we're going to see if we can get the thing even running. We'll probably clean the rotor button and the distributor cap, you know, basically the free stuff, and see how it does. All the gauges worked. We were able to get it to at least where the coolant temperature gauge did start to come up. It never got to operating temperature, but started to warm up. And surprisingly, even after we had it running for about 2 minutes, it still had almost 50 pounds of oil pressure, which is a good sign. And no, we did not change the oil in it. So we're going to have to get all that junk out of it, all the snakes and rats and all that good stuff, and see how much rot there is in the car. But we did replace the T-top seals and the trunk seal not too long before the car was parked. And I think that might be its saving grace. I also put a new fuel pump in it, probably maybe a year before the transmission went out. So that's a positive too. So I'm kind of curious to hear what you guys have to say. What direction do you want to go with the car? I know a lot of you guys will say LS swap. Probably not going to happen. The reason being, if I do this, I want to keep it essentially for my daughter. And when she is 16, I don't think that a LQ9 with a 232 cam is going to be ideal, to say the least. And honestly, even with a 2.8 in it, it really wasn't that underpowered. So I'm kind of curious to know what you guys think about possibly doing a 2.8, keeping the original transmission and doing a rebuild on it. Probably have to do at least a 30 overbore on the cylinders because I'm sure they need it. And maybe doing a 3.1 liter rotating assembly. Keeping the iron heads, maybe opening up the manifold. I know there's some free mods you can basically do to the manifold to get a little bit more out of them. A set of headers, a high flow cat, and maybe an 80 series Flowmaster on it. And, see if we can get it up to around the 150, 160, 165 horsepower mark. I know there's a company that used to make a computer-friendly cam for them. It was basically like almost a stock hot cam. It was really mild, had a really mild idle, just maybe a little bit choppier than stock. And I wonder if something like that would work really well in this application. Keep the fuel economy up, keep the drivability up, keep basically all the numbers matching, but maybe just the 3.1 internals. And like I said, it's not going to be a drag car. If it was me and I was going all out on it, there's a ton of different directions I could go. Whether it's, just swap in a 350 small block with a EFI Tech or a Holley standalone fuel system on it, or LS swap, of course, is always popular. Heck, I could swap a 6.5 into it with like a HX 350 turbo and a TH 400 transmission and just go out there and run 100 shot nitrous on or something. Still something stupid, Everything is possible, but I really think that keeping the car kind of in line with what it is. It wasn't a V8 car from the factory. I don't really feel like it should be a V8 car. And if it's something we're going to keep in the family, I would really like to keep it somewhat reasonable. And I do remember being able to get like 26, 27 miles per gallon out of it whenever it was, running correctly. And that's with a 4-speed automatic. So I feel like that's pretty reasonable for fuel economy. It will definitely get a limited slip rear end, though. If we do run through this project and continue with it, it will be getting an LSD, probably with rear disc brakes too. So that would be one change I would definitely implement. But anyway, guys, hey, thank you for being part of this channel. We just clicked over 100 subscribers. That's phenomenal. Thank you guys so much. I appreciate all your input. We're going to have a lot more projects coming soon. We've got some cool stuff coming this summer. I'm going to tell you, we've got a 3-cylinder diesel that's probably going to get a turbo on it, so stay tuned for that. And once again, guys, thank you. Have a good one. Stay safe all the way.